this live session. In this video, I wanted to talk to you about anxiety. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because of this book. This is, I'm not sure if you can see it, but the book is called The Mindfulness and Acceptance Workbook for Anxiety. And it's written by John, I think the last name is Forsyth, and George Eifert. And I got this book because, as many of you probably, or maybe some of you, I do suffer from anxiety. And supposedly this book is great for working through anxiety and figuring out not necessarily what caused the issue, but steps on how to resolve it. So the book starts out really describing what anxiety is and what they call a new way out of your anxieties and worries. It's kind of, they call it a new approach to get different outcome. And it really is a workbook. For example, there are multiple exercises that you can do, like something like this. So it really is requiring some work on your part. And to be honest with you, I was quite a bit skeptical about this, just because, you know how it is, homework. But I decided that I needed something different for my own sake, for anxiety in general. And I am on page 60 now. So I am past the first chapter. And it's interesting that each chapter starts out with the exercise to center yourself, and it has a link to where you can listen to a meditation session for about 6 to 12 minutes. It's a very basic meditation, but it allows you to really think about the present and why you want to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So the exercise, let's get present by coming back to our breath. And you can either listen to the meditation or you can just read it from the book. Not really sure how you can meditate by reading, but it is also an option. And then at the end of one of the first chapters, there is an exercise that a question that asks you, what are the most disturbing and interfering aspects of my problem with anxiety? So I came up actually with quite a few for myself. So for one of mine is I have anxiety over things not going according to the plan. So, for example, I like to have a plan, and when things go outside of that realm of planning, I get anxious and causes a lot of stress for really no real reason, just because I typically overplan anyway. But even with all this overplanning, anxiety is something that I just can't avoid having. Another anxiety that I have is anxiety to make a mistake. And that's kind of, I think many of us have some of that. So I think it's not very unique to me. So the book also goes through some of the typical causes for anxiety, panic disorders, or other types of anxiety, specific phobias, social anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, PTSD, and generalized anxiety disorder. But the interesting thing is that they're not saying that you need to get diagnosis of what kind of anxiety you have, but rather focus on how to resolve this general anxiety disorder. There is hope. And I wanted to share with you this few paragraphs, how they compare anxiety itch to poison ivy. Not sure how many of you had poison ivy, but it's not fun. So poison ivy is a plant that produces a strong skin irritant. Most people avoid touching the plant because they know what they'll get: a nasty, red, blistering rash that itches like hell. Well, that's for sure. Maybe you've had a poison ivy rash before and know what it's like. It leaves you with a strong urge to scratch. And when you do that, you make matters worse. You end up with open sores on your skin, and if you haven't washed the plant oils from your hands and exposed areas, you may spread the allergic reaction to other parts of your body. No amount of scratching will cure the inflammation. You need to stop the scratching and allow your body to heal itself. And now they're transitioning to the actual comparison. The anxiety itch is like this too. The discomfort rages through your head and body, and you have a strong urge to get relief. So you avoid, you struggle. The problem is that you can't avoid exposure to anxiety in the same way you can avoid a poison ivy plant. Anxiety can show up anytime or anywhere. When you scratch your anxiety itch with avoidance or struggle, it makes the anxiety worse. The anxiety grows and spreads to infect most of your life. And all that avoidance, scratching pulls you out of your life too. So the concept here is that many of us avoid anxiety, avoid fears, try to fix ourselves, think that by us having anxiety or fears, there's something wrong with us and that we need to get rid of it or need to completely eradicate anxiety. But the reality is that we just need to be able to cope with it and take it along on a ride with us as we live our lives. So avoidance is not really a solution. And so after each of these paragraphs, it's really not a very text dense book where you are reading through it and you feel like you just are sleepy. I tend to get distracted very quickly, but this book keeps you occupied quite a bit. And then at the end of each chapter, they have these take-home messages like this. It's kind of like one or two paragraphs again that not only summarize the chapter but leave you with a few pointers. Like, for example, this chapter, Discovering the Toxic Root of Disordered Anxiety, points to ponder. Avoidance can turn normal anxiety and fear into a life shattering problem, attempting to control and run from my anxious discomfort may be the real problem I need to face and do something about it. And then there is a question to consider, or in this case, questions. How do I avoid my emotional and psychological pain? Am I willing to meet my anxious discomfort with actions that are kinder, gentler, and more compassionate so I can lead a better life? And really, we do need a different approach of solving anxiety. What I also liked about this book is that it does not discourage you from taking medication, but ultimately it does say that you want to resolve some of the issues by working through the workbook yourself, putting in effort, because while medications might help for a while, ultimately many people do want to get off them and be able to handle everyday anxiety themselves. There's another chapter that talks about common myths, but there's one of the first chapters, there's one sentence that resonated with me. If I continue to do what I've always done, then I'm going to get what I always got. Think about it. If you're going to repeat the behaviors that you've had for weeks, years, whatever it is, the result, the outcome is going to be the same. So that means if you want to change something, like, and I'm not even talking about anxiety, right? Let's just talk about a habit. If you want to break a habit or build a habit, you gotta do something different. I like that. And there are some myths that are really common in our everyday society, that intense anxiety is abnormal, that anxiety is a sign of weakness, and anxiety really can and must be managed to live a vital life. This is interesting. This one is fueled by social rules and expectations, and we call this the culture of feel goodism, right? Because it's typical for us to respond to the question, how are you? With an answer, I'm great or I'm good. These rules set up emotional and physical pain as barriers to a life lived well. The message is this: in order to live better, I must first think and feel better. And once I start thinking and feeling better, my life will improve for the better. And they're saying that this is a trap. And in your mind, this pain really isn't just pain, it's bad pain. Your mind has judged this pain as unacceptable and also has linked it with not being able to do what you care about. When anxiety pain shows up, you go after it to weaken it or drive away. Um, so the idea is that you don't have to necessarily drive it away. You don't have to feel good to live a good life. You don't have to feel good all the time. It's okay. Pretty fascinating concept, right? And it's amazing that they're saying that so many people have anxiety that we don't even imagine the numbers. And some of the stories in this book range from, somebody who is anxious to do grocery shopping to somebody who is unable to even go outside. Um, it's just incredible how many people experience the same type of mental condition where we can't even relate to each other because it's such so taboo to talk about anxiety, right? Mental health has become somewhat destigmatized during the pandemic, right? But there's still so much stigma around it. It's hard to manage that. And anxiety is part of that as well. All right. And then they're talking about avoiding some experiences. And then the part two of the book is starting a new chapter. So, how do you manage that? I also have recorded exercises in as part of reading this book. So it's kind of a combination of reading, writing, and some audio listening. And what I like is also they bring in different stories from different people just to make it more personal. So, if you are interested, definitely I would recommend exploring. Now, I have not finished the book just yet, so I have still quite a bit to explore myself, but I think I already like it because of the different approach. It makes it simple, but not simplistic. I don't know how to explain it exactly. So, if you do suffer from anxiety, as might be an alternative option. Alright, I'm going to wrap up in this session. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself. Goodbye.